Today I'm going to show how to install a Mishimoto oil catch can in a 2022 or newer Honda Civic equipped with a 1.5-liter turbo engine. The catch can will be installed between the crankcase and intake manifold. A catch can is a good modification to perform on forced induction direct injected vehicles. It helps to prevent oil and other contaminants from entering a vehicle's intake manifold. The biggest benefit is to reduce the buildup of carbon inside the engine's intake system. I will have a link to the product in the video description along with all the tools used in the installation process. Let's go over what the catch can kit comes with. You'll receive the catch can, mounting bracket, in and out fittings, in and out hoses, 1 split hose, 2 zip ties, 3 M4 bolts, and 4 worm gear clamps. All parts are high quality and the catch can itself is machined to a high standard. To complete the installation, you'll need a few basic hand tools. Those tools include a socket wrench, socket extension, 7mm socket, 10mm socket, 17mm wrench, 2.5mm Allen key, needle nose pliers, and a small flathead screwdriver. Before we install the catch can, we need to prep the can by installing the 2 fittings. Both fittings are exactly the same, so you can install either one in the in or out port labeled on the can. Simply screw each fitting into the can. Then, using a 17mm wrench, tighten until each fitting is completely seated into the can. Now we can start the installation process. Begin by removing the factory PCV hose. Slide the top and bottom clamp back using a pair of needle nose pliers. After the clamps have been moved back off the fittings, you can pull the hose off with your hand. I found the top part of the hose was easy to remove, but the bottom part was not. I had to use a small flathead screwdriver to get underneath the hose and break the seal that it had on the fitting. Honestly, this was the hardest part of the install process. Finally, this will be the only factory part that will be removed from the car. Next, we will mount the catch can. Locate the black fuel hose bracket that sits behind the engine and is easily accessible. Remove the front half of the bracket by removing the 2 10mm upper nuts and 1 10mm lower bolt holding the bracket in place. After the front half of the bracket has been removed, remove the 2 10mm bolts that hold the rear part of the bracket in place. Mount the supplied catch can bracket behind the fuel hose rear bracket. You will reuse the 2 factory 10mm bolts to fasten both brackets to the car. Slip the split hose over the factory fuel hose that runs in front of the catch can bracket. Make sure the split hose is positioned directly in front of the catch can bracket. Next, attach the 2 zip ties to the catch can bracket. There are 2 holes in the U section of the bracket meant for the zip ties. Once the zip ties have been pushed into the bracket, secure the split hose up against the bracket with those zip ties. With the slip hose secured against the bracket, you can reinstall the front part of the fuel hose bracket using the 2 factory 10mm nuts and bolt. Finally, attach the catch can to the bracket using the 3 M4 bolts. The bolts may be installed in the top of the can, so you will need to remove them. Position the can into the bracket and reinstall the bolts. These bolts will require a 2.5mm Allen key. The can will be positioned with the 2 fittings angled towards the driver's side of the car. Now that the catch can has been installed, we can install the 2 hoses. We'll install the bent hose first. One end will go into the outside of the can and the other end will go in the intake manifold. Before you install the hose, slide 2 of the worm clamps onto the hose. The shorter bend in the hose goes to the can and the longer bend goes to the intake manifold. After the hose has been attached to the out fitting of the can and the intake manifold, Tighten the clamps with a 7mm socket. Install one end of the straight hose on the inside of the can and the other end in the valve cover. Again, slip 2 worm clamps onto the hose. Tighten both clamps with a 7mm socket. Both hoses will be installed behind the S-shaped hose coming off the engine in front of the catch can. The final step is to install 2 hose clips that hold the hoses together and keep them from rubbing each other. The larger clip will be installed on the factory hose and the valve cover hose. The smaller clip will be installed on the both catch can lines. This completes the installation of the Mishimoto catch can for 11th generation Honda Civics. The install process is straightforward. I would say it's as close to a plug-and-play install as you can get for a modification of this type. The product installs and looks like a piece that could come installed from the factory. The whole process took about 30 minutes to complete. Mishimoto recommends checking the can every 1,000 miles until you get an idea of how much contamination the can catches. This will help to set up a service interval schedule. I'll be interested to see how the product performs on the car as time goes on. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content.